When my granddaughter Chloe announced to her sweet 16 party guests, "Grandma makes everyone uncomfortable, and she's embarrassing. She should leave." I smiled, gathered my purse, and walked out quietly. What she didn't know was that I'd just spent $12,000 on her perfect party. But here's what really happened on my drive home that night. I called my financial advisor and made some changes that would teach Chloe exactly what uncomfortable really means. My name is Ruth Williams. I'm 74 years old, and I live in Portland, Oregon. For the past 6 years, I've been building something my family never expected from a retired teacher. While they thought I was stretching my modest pension to help them, I was actually creating a financial foundation that supported their entire lifestyle. You see, when my husband Harold passed away 7 years ago, he left me with some life insurance money and his pension rollover. What started as a widow trying to make her nest egg last turned into something much bigger. I taught myself about investing, started small, and watched that money grow in ways that would shock my daughter and granddaughter. They had no idea that their comfortable life, Chloe's private school education, her car, her designer clothes, even that elaborate Sweet 16 party, all came from my investment portfolio. They thought I was just a generous grandmother making sacrifices. They never imagined I was actually a woman with real financial power, choosing to share it with people I loved. But that night, sitting in my car outside the country club, listening to the music and laughter continuing like nothing had happened, I realized something important. Chloe didn't see me as her loving grandmother, who'd been supporting her dreams. She saw me as an embarrassment. What happened over the next month taught my granddaughter and daughter a lesson about respect, gratitude, and what happens when you bite the hand that's been feeding your entire lifestyle. Because sometimes the people who love you most need to learn what life looks like without you, and sometimes, stepping back is the kindest thing you can do for everyone involved. Let me tell you how a widow with a teacher's pension became the secret financial backbone of an ungrateful family, and how I used that power when they finally showed me who they really were. Before we continue, please leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, and subscribe for more stories like mine. 7 years ago, when my husband Harold died suddenly of a heart attack, I felt completely lost. We'd been married for 42 years, and he had always handled our investments. There I was at 67, sitting in our small Portland apartment with his life insurance payout of $180,000 and his pension rollover of $60,000, wondering how to make it last for the rest of my life. I spent that first year just surviving. Getting through each day without Harold felt impossible, let alone thinking about money or the future. I was living off our small savings while I grieved, watching those insurance funds sit in a basic checking account earning practically nothing. But then something shifted. Maybe it was my teaching background. Or maybe it was Harold's voice in my head, reminding me that I'd always been good with numbers. I started reading books about investing from the library. I watched financial YouTube channels late at night, when I couldn't sleep. I even took an online course about stock market basics from the community college. 6 years ago, I took my first real step. I was terrified of losing Harold's money, but I was more terrified of outliving it. I put $50,000 into index funds and $30,000 into dividend stocks, just to see what would happen. That's when my daughter Lisa called me, crying. She'd been divorced for 3 years, working in marketing, and barely making ends meet. Chloe had just been accepted to Riverside Academy, this prestigious private school, but the tuition was $25,000 a year. "Mom, I don't know what to do." Lisa sobbed over the phone. "Chloe's so excited about this school, but I can't afford it. I feel like such a failure as a mother." I looked at my little investment account, which had already grown to almost $300,000 in just 1 year. I had made $45,000 in gains that I never expected, so I told Lisa not to worry, that I would handle Chloe's education. Lisa was shocked. "Mom, I can't let you spend down your inheritance money for this. Harold worked too hard for that." But what Lisa didn't understand was that my little stock portfolio wasn't shrinking. It was growing faster than I'd ever imagined possible. While she thought I was sacrificing my security for Chloe's future, I was actually building something much bigger than Harold and I had ever dreamed of. I started small with helping them. Car insurance here, $200 a month. Some nice clothes for Chloe there. Maybe 300. Tutoring when she struggled with math. 400 monthly. Lisa would thank me constantly, saying things like, "Mom, you're stretching your budget so much for us. I feel terrible." If only she knew. My portfolio kept growing. By year 3, I had 380,000. By year 6, I was looking at $650,000. I was making about $50,000 a year in investment gains, which was more than enough to cover the $31,000 I was spending annually on their lifestyle. I kept living in my same small apartment, driving my 2015 Honda, shopping at thrift stores. Not because I had to, but because I wanted every dollar working for our family's future. Lisa would see me checking my phone, looking at my investment app, and she'd smile. "Mom, you and your little stock hobby. I'm glad you have something to keep you busy." Little stock hobby. If she only knew that her mother had become quite the investor. 4 years ago, when Chloe turned 12, I opened a $529 college savings plan without telling them. I've been putting $1,000 a month into it, and with growth, it's now worth $58,000. Lisa has no idea that Chloe's college education is already mostly funded. Over these past 3 years at Riverside Academy, I've been covering Chloe's tuition, her car payments, and all the extras that come with keeping up at an elite private school. When they needed emergency money for car repairs or medical bills, I was there. When Chloe wanted to go on that expensive class trip to Europe last year for $3,500, I made it happen. Lisa would always say, "Mom, you're such a generous grandmother. I don't know how you do it on your teacher's pension." The truth was, I wasn't living on my pension at all. I was living off the investment gains from the portfolio I'd built. But I let them think I was making sacrifices because I wanted them to appreciate what they were receiving. Last month, when Chloe started planning her sweet 16 party, she came to me with this elaborate vision: country club venue, professional catering, designer decorations, the kind of party her wealthy classmates threw. I quietly transferred $8,000 from my investment gains and saved another $4,000 from my monthly budget over 6 months. $12,000 for one party. More than many families spend on a car. But I wanted to give Chloe the celebration of her dreams. I wanted to see her face light up when she saw everything I'd arranged. I was so excited that Saturday morning, overseeing every detail at the country club, pink and gold decorations, elegant centerpieces, a photo booth with custom backdrop, I had created the party that would make Chloe the envy of all her friends. What I didn't expect was that in trying to give Chloe everything she wanted, I had forgotten to teach her the most important thing of all: gratitude. The changes in Chloe started slowly, right after she began at Riverside Academy. At 13, she was suddenly surrounded by kids whose parents were doctors, lawyers, and tech executives. Kids who lived in million-dollar homes and took family vacations to Europe. At first, it was just small comments. "Grandma, why don't you dress nicer? My friend's grandparents wear designer clothes." Or, "Why do you drive such an old car? Madison's grandmother has a BMW." I tried to laugh it off. After all, I could afford nicer things. I just chose to invest my money instead of wearing it. But Chloe didn't understand that choice. The school events were when I really started to notice the difference. I'd show up to parent nights or graduation ceremonies in my simple department store dresses and sensible shoes, while other grandparents arrived in expensive outfits and luxury cars. I could see Chloe looking around, comparing me to her classmates' families. Her friend group made everything worse. Madison, whose parents were both cardiologists. Trevor, whose father owned some tech company. Sophia, who lived in a $2 million house in the hills. These kids had never heard the word budget in their lives. And Chloe started wanting to keep up with them. "Grandma, I really need this backpack for school. It's only $400, and everyone has one. Or can you help me get these shoes? They're $300, but I'll be the only one without them." Every time Chloe asked for something, I found a way to make it happen. When she wanted to go on that class trip to Europe, I transferred $3,500 without blinking. I thought I was helping her fit in, helping her feel confident among her wealthy classmates. Lisa would always add her voice to these requests. "Mom, You don't understand how competitive this school is. These kids notice everything. Chloe needs these things to belong. So I kept giving. Designer clothes, expensive shoes, the latest technology. When Chloe needed a car for her 16th birthday, I co-signed for a nice Honda and covered the monthly payments. $250 every month, which Lisa thought was stretching my budget, but barely made a dent in my investment returns. The family started treating my financial help like it was automatic. Car repairs? Call Grandma. Medical bills not covered by insurance? Grandma will handle it. Home maintenance issues? Mom, can you help us out with $1,800 for the roof leak? I remember one particularly expensive month when their air conditioning broke in the middle of summer. $3,000 for a new unit. Lisa called me in tears, saying they couldn't afford it, and Chloe was complaining about the heat affecting her homework. I transferred the money that same day. But what hurt was that when I called Lisa later to check if the repair went well, she was already asking about something else Chloe needed for school. My investment portfolio kept growing beautifully. By the time Chloe turned 15, I was sitting on $650,000, earning around $50,000 a year in gains. But instead of feeling proud of my financial success, I was starting to feel like an ATM with legs. The real pain started when Chloe began acting embarrassed by me. She'd decline rides to school, saying she'd rather take the bus. She stopped inviting me to school functions. When I'd show up anyway, she'd give me these stiff, uncomfortable hugs and quickly move away. I'll never forget the school bake sale incident. I made my famous chocolate chip cookies, the same recipe I'd used when Lisa was little. I was so proud to contribute something homemade to Chloe's school. But when I arrived at the table to set them down, Chloe acted like she didn't even know me. One of her friends asked, "Chloe, who's that lady with the cookies?" And Chloe just shrugged and said, "I don't know, just some volunteer." I stood there holding my plate of cookies, watching my granddaughter pretend I didn't exist. The granddaughter whose education, car, clothes, and social activities I'd been funding with my own hard-earned investment gains. When Chloe started talking about her sweet 16 party, I was actually excited. Maybe this would be a chance for us to connect again. She came to me with her vision of the perfect celebration at the country club, and I could see how much it meant to her. "Grandma, I want it to be absolutely perfect. All my friends are having their parties there, and I want mine to be just as good." I started planning immediately. Over 6 months, I carefully saved $4,000 from my monthly budget and transferred another $8,000 from my investment gains. Venue rental, catering, decorations, professional photography, DJ, everything Chloe had dreamed of. Lisa kept saying, "Mom, this is too much. We can't let you spend this kind of money." But I wanted to do it. I thought that if I gave Chloe the party of her dreams, she'd remember how much her grandmother loved her. I thought she'd be proud to have me there, proud to introduce me to her friends as the grandmother who made it all possible. I spent weeks coordinating with the country club, choosing the perfect decorations, making sure every detail matched Chloe's vision. Pink and gold everywhere, elegant centerpieces, a photo booth with props, professional lighting for the dancing. The morning of the party, I was so excited I could barely sleep. I kept thinking about Chloe's face when she saw everything I'd arranged for her. I imagined her hugging me, thanking me, maybe even introducing me proudly to her friends. What I didn't imagine was that the party I'd spent $12,000 creating would become the setting for the most hurtful moment of my life. Because while I was busy trying to buy Chloe's love and acceptance, I'd forgotten to teach her the most basic lesson about respect and gratitude. And she was about to teach me a lesson I'll never forget. The morning of Chloe's sweet 16, I arrived at Riverside Country Club 2 hours early. I wanted to oversee every single detail myself. After all, this was my gift to her, and I was determined to make it perfect. Walking through those elegant halls, watching the staff arrange the pink and gold decorations I'd carefully chosen, I felt so proud. The ballroom looked like something from a fairy tale, elegant centerpieces with white roses and gold accents, twinkling lights strung across the ceiling, a professional photo booth with custom props spelling out Sweet 16. Even the cake was a work of art. 3 tiers with delicate sugar flowers. Everything I dreamed of giving Chloe was coming together beautifully. I went home to get ready, choosing my outfit carefully. I wore my best navy dress, the one I'd bought from Nordstrom 3 years ago for Lisa's company Christmas party. Simple pearl earrings that Harold had given me for our 20th anniversary. I looked respectable, dignified, or so I thought. When I arrived back at the country club that evening, the parking lot was already filling up with cars that cost more than most people's annual salary. BMWs, Mercedes, even a Tesla. I parked my 2015 Honda between a Lexus and an Audi, suddenly feeling very aware of the difference. Inside, Chloe looked absolutely stunning. The designer dress I'd helped pay for, $400 of soft pink silk, fit her perfectly. Her makeup had been done professionally, another expense I'd covered. She was surrounded by her friends, all of them looking like they'd stepped out of a magazine. I walked up to her with a huge smile, my arms open for a hug. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. Doesn't everything look beautiful?" Chloe gave me the briefest, stiffest hug I'd ever received from her. "Thanks, Grandma," she said quickly, then immediately turned back to her friends. That should have been my first warning. I tried to mingle with the other adults, but the differences were glaring. The other grandparents were wearing designer outfits that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Expensive jewelry caught the light as they gestured with manicured hands. Their conversations were about European vacations and investment properties. I approached a group of Chloe's friends, trying to be friendly. "You must be Madison. Chloe talks about you all the time." Madison looked me up and down with barely concealed confusion. "Oh, hi." Her tone was polite but cold, like she was talking to hired help. Trevor, standing nearby, whispered something to Sophia that made her giggle. I caught the words "old lady" and felt my cheeks burn. I tried to stay positive. This was Chloe's night, and I wanted it to be perfect for her. When the catering staff needed direction about the dinner service, I stepped in to help coordinate. When the DJ had questions about the playlist, I made sure he had Chloe's favorite songs ready. But I noticed the looks I was getting. The subtle way Chloe's friends would step away when I approached. The way they'd glance at each other when I spoke. I overheard Madison say to another girl, "Why is that old lady acting like she's in charge? She looks like she works here." My heart started to sink. I realized that in my simple department store dress, surrounded by all this luxury, I must have looked completely out of place. But this was my granddaughter's party. I had every right to be here. I had paid for every detail of this evening. The moment that broke my heart happened about an hour into the party. I was standing near the dessert table, watching Chloe laugh with her friends, when I decided to approach them one more time. Maybe if I just tried harder to connect, they'd see that I belonged here too. "Are you girls having fun? Is there anything you need?" I asked, smiling warmly at the group. Madison looked annoyed. "We're fine," she said curtly. But Chloe's reaction was worse than anything her friends could have said. I saw panic flash across her face. She looked around at her wealthy classmates, then at me in my simple outfit, and I could practically see her calculating the social cost of having me there. That's when she said the words that will haunt me forever. "Grandma, you're making everyone uncomfortable, and you're embarrassing. You should just leave." The entire party stopped. Conversations died mid-sentence. The music seemed to fade into the background. Everyone was staring at us, at me, waiting to see what would happen next. I stood there, feeling like I'd been slapped. This was the granddaughter I'd been supporting for years, whose education I'd funded, whose lifestyle I'd made possible. She was telling me to leave the party I'd paid $12,000 to create. Madison nodded approvingly. "Yeah, this is supposed to be fun, not awkward." Some of the other kids started snickering. I could hear whispered comments behind hands. "So embarrassing. Why would she even come? Poor Chloe." I looked at Chloe's face, searching for some sign of regret, some indication that she realized how cruel her words were, but all I saw was impatience. She just wanted me gone so she could get back to enjoying her party. The party I had created for her. The party that had cost me more money than some families spend on a car. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and said quietly, "Of course, sweetheart. I hope you have a wonderful party." I walked through that ballroom with as much dignity as I could muster, past the elegant decorations I'd chosen, past the expensive catering I'd arranged, past the beautiful cake I'd ordered specially for her. Every step felt like a mile. Lisa was inside talking to other parents, completely unaware of what had just happened. She didn't see her mother being publicly humiliated by the granddaughter we'd both worked so hard to support. As I walked to my car, I could hear the music resume behind me. Laughter, conversation, the party continuing as if nothing had happened. As if the woman who'd made it all possible had never been there at all. I sat in my Honda in that parking lot full of luxury cars, listening to the celebration I'd funded, but was no longer welcome to attend. And that's when it hit me. For 6 years, I'd been buying Chloe's love with my money. I'd been so focused on giving her everything she wanted, that I'd never required her to give me anything back. Not respect. Not gratitude. Not even basic kindness. I'd created a monster, and she'd just shown me exactly what she thought of the grandmother who'd sacrificed so much for her happiness. But as I drove away from that country club, I realized something else. Something that would change everything for both of us. I had more power in this relationship than Chloe could possibly imagine. And it was time for her to learn exactly what she'd just thrown away. The drive home from that country club was the longest 20 minutes of my life. I kept replaying Chloe's words in my head. "You're making everyone uncomfortable and you're embarrassing." The way she'd said it so casually, like she was asking me to pass the salt. The way her friends had nodded in agreement. The way the entire party had stopped to watch my humiliation. I pulled into my apartment complex and sat in my car for another 10 minutes, just trying to process what had happened. The granddaughter I'd been supporting since she was 13 had just publicly dismissed me like I was some unwanted stranger who'd wandered into her party. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Not just hurt. Angry. Because I realized that this wasn't really about my outfit or my car or whether I fit in with the other grandparents. This was about a fundamental lack of respect that had been building for years. When I finally went inside, I did something I hadn't done in decades. I poured myself a glass of wine, a good bottle I'd been saving, and sat down to really think about my situation. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Chloe's face when she told me to leave. The dismissive way she'd looked at me. The relief in her expression when I actually walked away. So I got up and did what I always do when I'm upset. I organized my thoughts on paper. I pulled out all my financial records and started calculating exactly how much I'd invested in Chloe's life over the past 3 years. The numbers were staggering, even to me. Tuition at Riverside Academy. $25,000 per year, times 3 years, $75,000. Car payments, $250 per month, times 18 months since she got her license, $4,500. Clothes, shoes, activities, and social expenses, approximately $3,000 per year, times 3 years, $9,000. Emergency expenses I'd covered for the family. New roof, medical bills, car repairs, another $8,000 over the years. The Sweet 16 party, $12,000 for one evening. The college fund I'd been building without their knowledge, $48,000 in contributions, now worth $58,000 with growth. I was looking at over $150,000 in direct support, plus the college fund they didn't even know existed. And for what? To be told I was embarrassing and should leave a party I'd funded. Sunday morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I made myself coffee and continued my financial review, but this time I looked at the bigger picture. My investment portfolio had grown to $650,000. I was earning approximately $50,000 per year, in gains more than enough to live comfortably without touching the principal. I could afford to travel, buy nice clothes, move to a better apartment, do all the things I'd been putting off while I supported Lisa and Chloe's lifestyle. But instead, I'd been living like I was still on a tight budget, pouring my investment success into a family that saw me as a resource rather than a person worthy of respect. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how completely they'd misunderstood our financial relationship. Lisa thought I was stretching my teacher's pension to help them. She felt guilty about accepting my support because she believed I was sacrificing my own security for theirs. The truth was exactly the opposite. I was choosing to support them from my abundance, not my scarcity. And that choice could be changed. Sunday afternoon, I got a text from Chloe. "Thanks for the amazing party, Grandma. All my friends said it was the best Sweet 16 ever. Love you." I stared at that message for a long time. Love you. After telling me I was embarrassing and should leave. After humiliating me in front of her friends. After treating me like hired help at an event I'd created for her. I texted back simply, "I'm glad you enjoyed it, sweetheart." But inside, I was making a decision that would change everything. Monday morning, I called my financial advisor, James Rodriguez, at exactly 8 o'clock. James had been managing my portfolio growth for the past 4 years, and he'd watched it grow from $300,000 to $650,000, with a mixture of pride and amazement. "James, I need to see you today. I want to make some changes to my accounts." We met at his office at 10 that morning. James is a kind man in his 50s, who'd helped many widows manage their finances. But he'd told me more than once that my investment success was remarkable for someone who'd started learning about the market at 68. "Ruth, you sounded upset on the phone. Is everything all right?" I told him about the party. About Chloe's words. About the years of financial support that had never translated into respect or gratitude. About the family that saw me as an ATM rather than a beloved grandmother and mother. James listened carefully, taking notes. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "Ruth, what exactly are you thinking of doing?" "I want to stop all the financial support I've been providing. Immediately." James raised his eyebrows. "That's significant. Let's go through what that would mean." We pulled up all my accounts on his computer. The automatic transfers I'd set up to cover various family expenses. The co-signed accounts where I was guaranteeing payments. The college fund contributions. "First," I said, "I want to stop the monthly contributions to Chloe's 529 college fund. No more $1,000 deposits." James made the change immediately. "Done. That saves you $12,000 per year." "Second, I want to stop making Chloe's car payments. Remove my name from the co-signed loan. That will mean Lisa will need to take over the full payment responsibility." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. If Chloe can tell me I'm embarrassing, she can learn what it costs to maintain the lifestyle that embarrasses her." James processed that change too. The bank will notify them within 48 hours that they need to start making the payments directly. Third, and this is the big one, I won't be paying next quarter's tuition at Riverside Academy. James stopped typing. "Ruth, that's over $6,000 they'll need to come up with in 3 weeks. Are you certain about this?" I thought about Chloe's face when she dismissed me. About the snickering of her friends. About Madison's comment that I looked like hired help. "James, my granddaughter told me I made everyone uncomfortable at a party I spent $12,000 creating. I think it's time she learns what real discomfort feels like. And the emergency fund access they've been using? Cut it off. All of it. If there are any accounts where I'm a guarantor or co-signer for their credit cards, remove my name." James worked quietly for about 20 minutes, making all the changes I'd requested. When he finished, he turned to me with a serious expression. "Ruth, this will have immediate and significant impact on their lifestyle. They've been depending on your support for years. Are you prepared for their reaction?" I thought about that question carefully. Was I prepared for Lisa's panic when she realized how much she'd been depending on me? Was I ready for Chloe's shock when her comfortable life suddenly became much less comfortable? "James, for 6 years, I've been choosing to share my financial success with people who took it for granted. I funded a lifestyle for a family that sees me as an embarrassment. I think it's time they learn the difference between my choosing to help them and their being entitled to my help." As I drove home from James's office, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Relief. For the first time since Harold died, I was making decisions based on how I wanted to be treated, not on how much I wanted to be loved. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. Mom, thank you again for everything you did for Chloe's party. I know it was expensive, and I appreciate how much you sacrificed for us. Sacrifice. She still thought I was sacrificing. She had no idea that I'd built a portfolio that could fund their lifestyle indefinitely if they'd just shown me basic respect and gratitude. But that was about to change. I texted back, "You're welcome, dear. I hope Chloe learned something from the experience." Oh, she was going to learn something. All right. They both were. Because starting right now, Ruth Williams was no longer funding a lifestyle for people who were embarrassed by her presence. And they were about to discover exactly what their comfortable life had really been costing, and who had been paying the bill. The first week after my meeting with James, nothing happened. The changes were processing through various financial institutions, but Lisa and Chloe had no idea their world was about to shift dramatically. Chloe even texted me a few times that week, asking for small amounts of money. "Grandma, can you send me $150 for new shoes? There's this pair all my friends have. And later, can you help me with $200 for concert tickets? Madison's parents are getting them for a group of us." For the first time in years, I said no. "Sweetheart, you should ask your mother about those things," I replied to both texts. I could almost feel Chloe's confusion through the phone. Grandma always said yes. Grandma always found a way to make things happen. Not anymore. The second week is when reality started hitting. Tuesday morning, Lisa called me in a panic. "Mom, I got the strangest call from the bank. They said I need to start making Chloe's car payments myself. I thought you were handling those." "I was," I said calmly. "But I've decided it's time for you to take over Chloe's expenses directly." "What do you mean?" "Mom, I can't afford an extra $250 a month right now. I thought we had an arrangement." "We did have an arrangement, Lisa. But arrangements can change." There was a long silence on the phone. Is this about something? Did I do something wrong? I almost laughed. Lisa had no idea what Chloe had said to me at the party. She'd been inside, socializing with other parents, completely unaware that her daughter had publicly humiliated the woman funding their entire lifestyle. "It's not about you doing something wrong, dear. It's about me making different choices about how I spend my money. But Mom, you know how tight things are for me. I was counting on your help. Counting on it. Not grateful for it. Not appreciative of it. Counting on it like it was her right. I understand this is an adjustment, Lisa, but I have confidence you'll figure it out." Friday of that second week, the real crisis hit. Lisa received a call from Riverside Academy's billing department. Next quarter's tuition payment of $6,250 was due the following Monday, and their automatic payment from my account had been declined. Lisa called me immediately, her voice shaking. "Mom, there's been some kind of mistake with Chloe's tuition. The school says the payment bounced. Can you call your bank?" "There's no mistake, Lisa. I won't be paying this quarter's tuition." The silence on the phone lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. "What do you mean you won't be paying it?" "Mom, Chloe's in the middle of her junior year. She can't just stop going to school. She can absolutely continue going to school, just not at Riverside Academy." "Mom, we can't afford that tuition without your help. You know that. We've talked about this." "Yes, we have talked about it. Many times. But we've never talked about whether Chloe appreciates the education I've been funding, or whether she respects the grandmother who's made her lifestyle possible." Lisa was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. "Did something happen at the party? You left early." "Something did happen, Lisa. Your daughter told me I was embarrassing and making everyone uncomfortable and asked me to leave. At the party I'd spent $12,000 creating for her." I heard Lisa gasp. "She said what?" "In front of all her friends. Publicly. After I'd arranged every detail of her perfect Sweet 16 celebration." "Mom, I had no idea. I was talking to other parents inside." "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." "I appreciate your apology, Lisa, but it doesn't change the fact that I've been funding a lifestyle for someone who sees me as an embarrassment. Let me talk to Chloe. We'll fix this. She'll apologize." It's too late for apologies, dear. The decisions have already been made. That weekend was chaos at Lisa's house. I know this because Lisa called me 6 times, each conversation more frantic than the last. Saturday. Mom, I've been looking at public schools. Chloe would have to start mid-semester. This will destroy her junior year. Sunday. Mom, Chloe's been crying all day. She says all her friends will think something's wrong with our family. Monday morning. Mom, I had to call in sick to work to go to the school. They need payment by end of business today, or Chloe can't attend classes tomorrow. I felt a little sorry for Lisa. She genuinely hadn't known what Chloe had said to me, but I didn't feel sorry enough to change my mind. Tuesday. Chloe called me directly for the first time. She was crying. Grandma, please. Mom says you're not paying for school anymore. Please don't do this to me. My friends will think we're poor. Chloe, you're not poor. Your family just needs to live within your means, instead of within mine. But I can't go to public school. Do you know what that would do to my reputation? I know exactly what it would do, sweetheart. It would teach you what your lifestyle actually costs and who's been paying for it. This isn't fair. I didn't do anything wrong. That's when I felt my patience finally snap. You didn't do anything wrong? Chloe, you told me I was embarrassing and asked me to leave a party I'd spent $12,000 creating for you. You humiliated me in front of your friends after I'd been supporting your education and lifestyle for 3 years. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? Exactly. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. My friends were looking at you funny, and I got embarrassed. Embarrassed of your grandmother. The grandmother who's been paying $25,000 a year for your education. The grandmother who bought your car, your clothes, funded your social activities, and saved $58,000 for your college education. Another long silence. $58,000? I've been putting $1,000 a month into a college fund for you since you were 12. Did you think your mother could afford Riverside Academy on her marketing salary? I could hear Chloe starting to understand the scope of what she'd thrown away. I can put the money back, she whispered. I can fix this. No, Chloe, you can't. Because this isn't about money. This is about respect, and you can't put respect back once you've thrown it away. The third week brought the credit card crisis. Lisa had been using credit cards that I'd co-signed for, thinking the limits were based on her income alone. When my name came off as guarantor, those limits dropped dramatically. Her card was declined at the grocery store, declined at the gas station, declined when she tried to pay for Chloe's senior pictures, which had been scheduled months in advance. Lisa called me in tears. Mom, I can't even buy groceries. My credit cards aren't working. They're working fine, Lisa. The limits have just been adjusted to reflect your actual income instead of mine. What do you mean your income? You're retired. That's when I realized how completely they'd misunderstood my financial situation. Lisa, I need to explain something to you. When your father died, I didn't just sit on his life insurance money. I learned to invest it. My portfolio is now worth $650,000. Dead silence. $650,000? I make about $50,000 a year in investment gains. That's what I've been using to support your family. Not my teacher's pension. Not my small savings. My investment income. I don't understand. You live so modestly. You drive that old car. You shop at thrift stores. Because I chose to live below my means so I could support your family above theirs. But you and Chloe never saw that as a choice I was making. You saw it as something you were entitled to. The fourth week was when Chloe had to start at Lincoln Public High School. It's a perfectly good school. But it's not Riverside Academy. No uniforms, no prestige, no wealthy classmates to impress. Lisa called to tell me how the transition was going. Mom, Chloe is miserable. She says none of her Riverside friends will talk to her anymore. She feels like a social outcast. That's unfortunate. But it's also educational. Educational how? She's learning what happens when your lifestyle is built on someone else's generosity and you bite the hand that feeds you. Meanwhile, I was learning something too. I was learning what it felt like to spend my money on myself for the first time in years. I bought myself a new wardrobe. Not designer clothes, but quality pieces that made me feel confident and attractive. I traded in my 2015 Honda for a lovely 2022 model with all the features I'd been admiring. I moved to a beautiful apartment with a view of the mountains. For the first time since Harold died, I was living like a woman with $650,000 in investments, not like someone stretching a pension. I also joined an investment club for retirees and discovered a whole community of people who appreciated my financial knowledge. These were people who saw my modest background and impressive portfolio growth as achievements to be proud of, not embarrassments to hide. 6 weeks after the party, Lisa and Chloe came to see me at my new apartment. Chloe barely spoke the entire visit, but I could see her taking in the upgraded furniture, the better neighborhood, the clear signs that I was no longer living like someone on a tight budget. "Mom," Lisa said carefully, "I want you to know that I've talked to Chloe extensively about what she said to you. She understands now that it was wrong." Chloe nodded miserably. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I really am. I was just trying to fit in with my friends. And I said something stupid." I looked at my granddaughter, really looked at her. She'd lost weight from stress. Her clothes were from Target instead of the boutiques I used to fund. She looked tired and genuinely remorseful. "Chloe, I appreciate your apology, but sorry doesn't undo the damage. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that you were willing to humiliate me to impress people who clearly weren't worth impressing. Can't we start over?" she asked quietly. "We can have a relationship, sweetheart. But it's going to be very different from what we had before." "What do you mean?" "I mean no more automatic financial support. No more assuming that Grandma will pay for things. No more taking my generosity for granted." Lisa jumped in. "Mom, what about the college fund you mentioned?" "The college fund still exists. $58,000. But Chloe will need to earn access to it." "How?" "By showing me consistently over time that she values our relationship for more than what I can give her financially. By treating me with respect and gratitude, not just when she needs something." "And if she does that?" Lisa asked hopefully. "Then we'll see, but it won't be automatic. And it won't be unconditional. Not anymore." 3 months later, Chloe started working part-time at a local coffee shop to help Lisa with car payments and her own expenses. It was the first job she'd ever had, and honestly, it was good for her. She texts me regularly now, but the texts are different. Instead of asking for money, she tells me about her day, about what she's learning in her new school, about how work is teaching her the value of money. Last month, she used her own earned money to buy me flowers for my birthday. They weren't expensive flowers, but they meant more to me than all the designer parties I'd ever funded. "I wanted to get these for you myself," she said when she brought them over. "Not ask you for money to buy you a present with." That's when I knew she was finally starting to understand. Lisa has been working on rebuilding our relationship too. She started asking me about my investments, genuinely interested in how I built my portfolio. She's even started investing some of her own money, inspired by what I accomplished starting at 68. "I never realized how smart you were about money, Mom," she told me recently. "I always thought Dad handled all that." "I learned, Lisa. It's never too late to learn." Do I regret cutting off their financial support? Not for a minute. Because what I gained was something much more valuable than what they lost. I gained my self-respect back. I gained relationships based on love, rather than financial dependency. And I gained the satisfaction of knowing that my money is mine to give or withhold, based on how I'm treated. The college fund is still there, growing with interest. Chloe will probably get access to it eventually once she's proven that she values me as her grandmother, not just as her ATM. But more importantly, I've kept the larger lesson. I learned that you can't buy love or respect with money. You can only buy dependency and entitlement. And I learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for people you love is to let them discover what their choices actually cost. If you've ever felt taken for granted by family you've been supporting, remember this: you have more power than you think, and it's never too late to use it to demand the respect you deserve. Because dignity isn't something you can put a price on, And it's definitely not something you should ever have to pay other people to give you. So, that's my story. I'd love to hear what you think. Have you ever had to set boundaries with ungrateful family members who expected your generosity, but didn't show appreciation? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more stories like mine.